And this is your community radio station, commercial-free, WXNZ LP, Skowhegan 98.1 FM, Hooskow Radio, where art and music and musical diversity, including the Zulu Leprechaun beat, will set us free.
That was John Shaw, husband, father, mental health counselor, and a multi-talented musician, singer, songwriter, and member of the musical group Zulu Leprechauns, which is an eclectic four-piece main-based rock and roll group celebrating their 27th year entertaining audiences throughout New England. The group features a unique combination of African percussion, electric dulcimer, violin, and assorted percussion instruments, supporting 3 vocalists as they perform everything from Americana to 60s psychedelia to 21st century world sounds. Their original compositions featured on their 5 releases reflect this musical diversity, with sounds ranging from bluegrass to Eastern ragas. If you like percussion, there's nothing like a Zulu Leprechauns beat. If you like to be pleasantly surprised, there is nothing like a Zulu Leprechauns concert. We're going to find out all about them, hear lots of their unique music right now. By the way, their motto is, expect the unexpected. Folks, stick around. You are in for a real treat and a very pleasant surprise. I'm Jitterbug Jimmy, your host, and this is The Guest Room. John Shaw, welcome, and thanks to you and Zulu Leprechauns for joining us here.
Thanks, Jimmy, and thanks for thinking of Zulu Leprechauns. You know, it takes a little bit of a unusual, open, and refined musical palette to understand what we're doing, and obviously you and your audience reflect those sensibilities.
Thanks to the listeners for tuning in to The Guest Room each week, and we thank you for your comments, suggestions, and support. John Shaw, tell us a little about yourself and lots about Zulu Leprechauns.
Well, Jim, I'm 68 years old. I'm married. My wife, Kim, is a chiropractor in Winslow. I've had a day job almost my whole life as a somehow in mental health business, and I've had a practice in counseling for about the past 25 years. And I got 3 children who live all over the country with their mates. And I've been playing music virtually since I was 8 years old. There was a broken guitar in my attic that I used to twang the string of, and I thought that sounded awesome. I've been kind of twanging strings ever since then. I've had a recording studio since for about the past 30 years, and a lot of the Zulu stuff has been recorded there, too. Zulu Leprechauns, as you said in that sort of description of us, we've been around for now 28 years, almost 29. And it started my 40th birthday party. And as I said, I've been a musician my whole life, so I had all my musician friends come. And one of my friends, Jim, had handmade a dulcimer, and he brought that. And another one of my friends who I was playing music with, Patrick, who was a drummer, had just gotten a djembe. And at the end of the party, as it was sort of breaking up and after we played their normal music, these 2 guys are sort of sitting in the corner playing this music. And as weird as it sounds, and this is where the origin is, that these 2 instruments, very, very different in origin, and it turns out the dulcimer's I thought it was Irish, but it's an American instrument. But the djembe is, an African instrument. These 2 instruments played so well together in this very unique style because Jim played standing up with his dulcimer and did this sort of fast strum stuff. And Patrick, was matching the fast strum stuff on a hand drum. And it was really captivating. And, they played for about an hour or so and went home. And about a week later, Jim called me. And I'd known Jim. I met him my first day of college. So I'd known Jim a long time. And he called me and said, hey, Patrick and I were playing, and we thought it went really well together, and we're looking for a bass player. And I had a recording studio, and I played guitar mostly, but I played a lot of bass because I could play in the studio. I bought a bass, a really kind of cool Steinberger knockoff bass that didn't have a head and looked like it was from Star Trek. And we started playing, and Jim and Patrick and I played for I don't know, about a year and a half, and there was a combination of sort of folky things. But, Jim and I have the same musical background from, the same age. He's a big Bob Dylan fan. I'm a big Grateful Dead fan. And he's got this great musical sense about him without being, like, incredibly proficient on his instrument, although he's really competent and plays great. He has this great musical sense. It's sort of hard to put my finger on it, but the way things should sound, he and I really agree about. And so that sort of melded, and he and I started writing songs, and we got gigs. And then this friend of his, Gary, called him and said, hey, I just met this, or I'm marrying this woman, this German woman. She plays hand drums, too. Maybe she could sit in with you. And, already the band was... it didn't have a lot of instruments. It was drums, an acoustic dulcimer, a very unusual instrument that we sort of mic'd or electrified somehow, and this electric bass and singers. So, I don't know. And it was like 2 drummers. That doesn't sound right. We're not nearly the size of the Grateful Dead. But anyway, so she sat in, and she's an incredible musician, Annegret Beyer. She's a classically trained. I think she trained in Ghana. And she'd have to tell you more, but I believe that the German government supported her in her efforts, and I believe that she's, she has perfect pitch, number one, and number two, she, knows this type of drumming unbelievably. It's one of the most expert drummers, I think, in Maine. And she's part of Inanna and a number of other groups, and is very well respected. Anyway, that was, so this was 20 years ago. And then Patrick, we had these gigs, and Patrick, had a sort of personal crisis and meltdown, and because of a sort of conflict with his girlfriend, left the state very suddenly, leaving us with a bunch of gigs. And so that's when push came to shove, and Annegret and Jim and I were the band. But we played a couple of gigs. The first one was for a bunch of people with special needs, and Annegret was sort of like, wow, is this what we're doing? But anyway, it really seemed that same magic of the mixing of these unusual instruments seemed to go together. Now, with Zulu Leprechauns, I don't know if you get the deal, but, I thought the dulcimer was an Irish instrument, and obviously the drums I thought were Zulu. Both are sort of racist, politically incorrect stereotypes now, but it's a pretty unique name, and we had been identified on some website of really cool names. So we've been around 28 years. We have 5 releases. We've been Jim and I write, and we have the same musical sensibility. I think I'm sort of the straighter sort of Paul McCartney type writer of sort of more melodic things. Jim, you chose a lot of the more unusual and eclectic things that we play, and I've noticed that a lot of those are from Jim's brain, and he's very much that way. And I said he's got just a great musical sensibility. It's really fun to work with. And Annegret, is a really, really fine musician, and she started playing more violin about 10 years ago. And about 15, 20 years ago now, we brought Jeff on board. He's the new guy. He's the Ron Wood of the group. He's the new guy. He's been around forever, but he's still the new guy. But he's a great percussionist, and he really makes the whole thing so the 2 drums can really drive and create that drum thing. And when Annegret plays violin, we have this really solid rhythm section between him and I. And so that's Zulu Leprechauns. I think you're going to cue up some songs, aren't you, Jimmy?
Yes, and I am so excited. I can't wait for our listeners to hear your music. Why don't we start off with Wellin', which is one of my absolute favorites, and a good example of expecting the unexpected. Tell us about Wellin'.
Wellin'. So Wellin' really reflects a lot of Zulu stuff. It's the only dulcimer song, actually, that we play. It's by this guy, Albert Doche, who plays California style. And that is the way that Jim plays, which is standing up with it strung like a guitar around your neck as opposed to on your lap. It reflects that fast drum beat and that fast strumming style on the dulcimer, and has an unusual part in the middle that's so emblematic of the music that we play.
Okay, here's Wellin'. Well, that was certainly unexpected. A bird singing, drums, and lovely yodeling. This next one is Kalimba Thing.
This is one of the first things that we wrote, Kalimba Thing. And a kalimba is a African thumb piano, and Patrick played it, as does Anna Gret. And we've been playing it a long time, and it sort of combines that African, it's an acoustic instrument with Jim's electric dulcimer and that fuzz tone, sort of Barry Melton, Country Joe, and the fish sound that he likes so much.
We're talking with the multi-talented musician John Shaw and hearing the incredible music of Zulu Leprechauns on your absolute favorite radio station, WXNZ LP, Skowhegan, 98.1 FM. Hooskow Radio. John, let's keep this going. What's next?
Alone in the Rain I wrote in my studio on the piano, and the chords are sort of piano chords. that are easy to play because I don't play piano very well. But I really like the words. I like the way it's orchestrated. It was really fun to produce. I think Anna Grad and all the band members really do a nice job putting the whole thing together and make it sound fully orchestrated.
Midnight when I finally woke up. The moon was coming over the hills. There was no one there on the shore, no one to cure my ills. So I packed up my bag and headed out back to where I came. Back to the city and those lonely streets. Back to the city of pain. Alone in the rain. Alone in the rain. Alone in the rain. Alone in the rain.
Next up, how about Atlantic City?
Atlantic City is a song that Jim heard Levon Helm do. It's originally by Bruce Springsteen, and it features Jim on the banjo, and I think he's the whole thing. I think he's got a great approach to it. I also think it's orchestrated very nicely, and it's not drum heavy. It's sort of this other style of music, Americana, for lack of a better term.
boys can do. Trouble's busting in from out of state, and the DA can't get no relief. Gonna be a rumble on the promenade, and the gamble commissioner's hanging on by the skin of his teeth. Everything dies, baby, that's a fact. But everything that dies someday comes back. Put your makeup on, fix your hair up pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Well, I've got a job and I put my money away. Got the kind of debts no honest man can pay. So I drew out what I had from that Central Trust. Bought us 2 tickets on that Coast City bus. Well, everything dies, baby, that's a fact. And everything that dies someday comes back. Put your makeup on, fix your hair up pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Though our love may have died and our love may be cold, with you forever I'll stay. We're going out where the sand turns to gold. Put your stockings on, 'cause you know it might get cold. Well, everything dies, baby, that's a fact. But maybe everything that dies someday comes back. Put your makeup on, fix your hair up pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Well, I'm looking for a job and it's just so hard to find. There's winners and losers, and I'm south of that line. But I'm tired of getting stuck out on this losing end. Talked to a man last night, gonna do a little favor for him. Well, everything dies, baby, that's a fact. But maybe everything that dies someday comes back. Put your makeup on, fix your hair up pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Oh, meet me tonight in Atlantic City. Oh, meet me tonight in Atlantic City.
All the songs so far have been off your In the Weeds album. Next up, off Music from the Mountains, It's All About Love.
Well, Jimmy, I'm glad you chose this song. It's all about love. It's all Jim Schwellenbach's concept. It has sort of a Leonard Cohen type guy doing poetry and Joni Mitchell type person singing. He wrote all the music. It has different time signatures in it, which I like. And I wrote the words, and they were sort of a hopeful message for dark times.
My winter soul lies dead in the field.
It's a winter storm, the wind won't yield.
The coldest hour on the coldest day.
The frost runs deep, deep in my veins. It's all about love.
shop.
Just a token of a broken heart.
In the longest night, at the darkest hour, where
Dawn is red, like blood on a flower. It's all about love and happiness. Harmony, where the answer is yes.
it's not about you,
It's not about you,
it's not about me,
it's not about me.
it's all about us.
It's all about us and what we can be.
Like a cold steel ball, the earth it spins.
Like a careless lover, we pay for our sins.
Like dirty water down the drain. Our
Dreams are dying, nothing but pain. It's all about love
It's all about love
and happiness,
and happiness.
harmony, where the answer is yes. It's not about you,
It's not about you,
it's not about me,
it's not about me,
it's all about us
it's all about us.
and what we can be. It's all about love and happiness, harmony, where the answer is yes. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's all about love and where we can be. It's all about love and happiness, harmony, where the answer is yes. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's all about us and what we can be.
I really, really love this music. John, how can folks get hold of your albums? How can they contact you for a concert or performance? And where can they see you play?
Yeah, most of the way you can contact Zulus is one online, where the last two albums are on all the music platforms out there that you might use to download music. If you want to contact me, you can get a hold of me through email, which is zululep4@gmail.com, zululep4@gmail.com, and I can send you some CDs. And you can also look for us on Facebook, and Facebook has all the connections to all of our stuff on YouTube and all that.
John Shaw, this has been really terrific, and the time has just slipped away on us. I have two more questions I'd like to ask you, and you would be answering for the whole band. How does the band hope folks feel after hearing their music, or what do you want folks to take with them after hearing you play?
What do we hope people take away from hearing us? Well, we're, as we said, a very eclectic band. There's a lot of different styles in there. We're really into sort of mashing up different cultural styles. There's a lot of in-jokes, Jimmy, you seem to appreciate the quirky sides of us, and we're sort of quirky in our own way, too. So we hope people are entertained by that in a way that other bands don't entertain. We're not that straight ahead. There's a lot of stuff there, and we're glad that we're entertaining to folks.
What's in the future for Zulu Leprechauns?
Well, hopefully what's in the future is more the same. You know, we spend our winters, I have a studio, we spend our winter writing. Jim travels a lot in the wintertime, and that inspires his work. And, everybody seems pretty committed to keep it going. So we do the summer thing of performing and the winter thing of sort of creating new stuff, and just hope to keep doing that. We do an album about once every 7 years and just released one a year ago. So hopefully, we're working on another one.
The band gets a wish. What will it be?
What's the band's wish? Well, the rest of the band's not here, so it's what's John's wish. And John's wish, especially for the band, is to keep on going. You can play music long into your old age. A lot of people do, and I'd like to keep on going. I really enjoy these people. They're very creative. They stimulate my sense of creativity, and it's really fun to do. So I hope we just keep on going until we can't go any longer.
John, let's sneak in one more tune. How about we play One Night in Paris?
Okay, Jimmy, the last song that you've chosen is One Night in Paris. It's written by Jim, and he travels a lot, and it's obviously inspired by that. He's got visions of Stefan Grabelli and Django Reinhardt in his head, and I like the fake Paris cafe sounds that we created with my china in the studio.
John Shaw, thank you so very much for taking the time to join us here on the guest room. And thanks to all the members of Zulu Leprechauns for sharing this thoroughly enjoyable and creative music.
Well, Jimmy, thanks for having us. You know, you have an excellent taste in music to have picked out Zulu Leprechauns and our weirdness, and we really welcome the opportunity to talk to you and all your fans on WXNZ LP in Skowhegan. It's really been a lot of fun.
Thanks to the listeners for tuning in. We hope you had fun. Come back again every Sunday and Thursday at 5 p.m. for more interesting and enjoyable interviews. And thanks to Wes Arts, Hooskow Radio, Andy Wendell, Greta, Amber, Misdemeanor, and the entire production team of The Guest Room. We've been visiting with John Shaw and hearing the dynamite music of Zulu Leprechauns on your community commercial-free radio station, WXNZ LP, Skowhegan, 98.1 FM. Hooskow Radio, where art, music, diversity, and expecting the unexpected will lift our spirits and set us free. I'm Jitterbug Jimmy, your host, and this has been The Guest Room.